chosen one. God will do the greatest thing ever with you tonight. Get ready. Why have you been fighting battles that seem impossible to win? Why does it feel like everyone else gets their breakthrough while you're still waiting in the shadows? Why has God been silent when you needed His voice the most? Stop scrolling. Stop everything. Tonight is not just another night scrolling through your phone, hoping for encouragement. This is a supernatural appointment. Heaven has cleared its schedule. The angels have been dispatched, and God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has written your name into tonight's story with His own finger. Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. You've been sabotaged by your own prayers. Every time you begged God to make you comfortable, you unknowingly asked Him to keep you small. Every time you prayed for an easy path, you prayed against your own destiny. Because chosen one is true, chosen ones are never made in comfort zones. Can you feel it? That electricity in your chest? That sudden awareness that something bigger than your circumstances is moving right now? That's not anxiety, that's recognition. Your spirit is remembering something your mind forgot. This isn't a message, it's a divine wire transfer. And you are the account it's being deposited into. Tonight, God is about to inject you with something so powerful, so life-altering, that your reality will split into before tonight and after tonight. But here's what will shock you. The pain you've endured, the silence you've suffered through, the delays that broke your heart, none of it was punishment. It was precision. God was lining you up for this exact moment. Every tear was an investment. Every rejection was a redirection. Every closed door was protection from a counterfeit destiny. If something in your chest is already stirring, if your hands are trembling as you read this, type "I'm ready" in the comments right now. Let heaven see your agreement, because what I'm about to reveal will explain why you felt different your entire life, why normal never felt right, and why tonight, this very night, everything changes. Before we dive deeper into this urgent word from the throne room, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. By the end of this message, you'll understand why the pain, the silence, the delays, it was all setting you up for this one night. But I need you to understand something critical. If you miss this window, you may not see it open again for years. Heaven is waiting. Your destiny is listening. And God is about to do the greatest thing He's ever done with you. Get ready. Have you ever wondered why your life has been harder than everyone else's? Why you've carried burdens that would break most people, yet somehow you're still here, still breathing, still fighting? Why does it feel like God gave you the hardest assignment, while others seem to coast through life on easy street? Listen to me carefully, beloved. That strange sensation you've carried your entire life, that feeling of being different, of not quite fitting into the world's mold that wasn't a curse, that was your calling card from heaven. You see, there's something the enemy has been desperately trying to hide from you, something so powerful that if you truly understood it, you'd never doubt your worth again. You were never meant to blend in with the crowd. You were never designed to live an ordinary life. From the moment God breathed life into your lungs, you were marked for the extraordinary. But here's where it gets shocking. The very struggles that made you question God's love were actually His boot camp. Every betrayal, every financial crisis, every health scare, every sleepless night you've endured, it wasn't punishment. It was preparation. God wasn't trying to break you. He was forging you into a weapon of His glory. The prophet Jeremiah understood this divine mystery when God spoke to him. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1-5. Did you catch that? Before you took your first breath, before your first heartbreak, before your first failure, God had already written your name in his book of champions. You're not broken, dear one. You're battle-forged. Every scar on your heart is a medal of honor. Every tear you've cried has been collected in heaven's bottle. You think you've been forgotten, but you've been preserved like fine wine kept in God's cellar for the perfect moment to be uncorked. And that moment is tonight. But let me address the lie that's been tormenting you. You keep asking, did I miss my purpose? Am I too old? Have I wasted too much time? Let me tell you something that will shatter that deception once and for all. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to deliver an entire nation. Abraham was 75 when he received his promise. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to destiny. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Every gray hair on your head represents wisdom earned in battle. Every line on your face tells a story of resilience. Every ache in your body is proof that you've survived what was meant to destroy you. You're not too late, beloved. You're right on time. See, while others were building their kingdoms on sand, God was building character in you through concrete and steel. While they were chasing temporary success, he was installing eternal purpose in your DNA. While they were collecting trophies, you were collecting testimonies. And now, at this very moment, as you sit there feeling forgotten, overlooked, passed by, God is about to flip the script. Because everything you've been through, every storm you've weathered, every mountain you've climbed, it was all dress rehearsal for what he's about to do through you. You want to know why you've suffered more than others? Because ordinary people can't carry extraordinary assignments. You want to know why you've felt alone? Because God had to separate you from the crowd to speak to you without interference. You want to know why doors have been closed? Because he was protecting you from settling for less than his best. The pain you've endured isn't evidence that God doesn't love you. It's evidence that he trusts you with something the comfortable could never handle. Job lost everything, his children, his wealth, his health. But in the end, God gave him double for his trouble. Not because Job was perfect, but because Job was faithful. Your faithfulness in the fire has caught heaven's attention. Your refusal to give up when giving up made sense has moved the heart of God. Your choice to keep believing when belief seemed foolish has positioned you for a miracle so magnificent that when it happens, no one will be able to deny that the hand of the Lord is upon your life. Tonight, God is saying to you what he said to Jeremiah. Do not say, I am too young, or in your case, I am too old, for you must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Your past doesn't disqualify you. Your age doesn't disqualify you. Your mistake don't disqualify you. Your willingness qualifies you. You see, God didn't keep you alive this long to fade into irrelevance. No, beloved. He didn't preserve you through every storm just to have you retire into obscurity. Every breath you're taking right now is borrowed time that he's giving you to complete the assignment he wrote for you before the foundation of the world. The very fact that you're still here, still listening, still believing, is proof that your story isn't over. It's proof that your greatest chapter hasn't been written yet. It's proof that God is just getting started with you. So tell me, are you ready to stop hiding behind your history and start walking in your destiny? Listen to me carefully. Chosen one, every single battle you fought, every door that slammed in your face, every relationship that crumbled, every dream that seemed to die, none of it was random. You've been living in a divine construction zone, and you didn't even know it. For decades, you've asked God, why me? Why this pain? Why this rejection? But what if I told you that every heartbreak was a deliberate demolition? What if every loss was God clearing the foundation for something so magnificent that your current mind can't even comprehend it? You see, most people think God's blessings come wrapped in comfort. They expect divine favor to feel like a warm blanket. But here's the shocking truth that will change everything. God's greatest gifts are forged in the furnace of opposition. Think about this, really. Think about it. When a master architect designs a skyscraper, does he start building on unstable ground? Never. He excavates, he digs deep, he removes everything that cannot support the weight of what's coming. And the deeper the foundation, the higher the building can reach. Your pain was the excavation, your tears were the blueprint, your battles were the construction crew. Let me take you to the ancient chambers of Scripture, where this pattern is written in blood and glory. Look at Joseph, favored by his father, gifted with visions, destined for greatness. But what happened next? His own brothers threw him into a pit. They sold him into slavery for 20 pieces of silver. Was God asleep? Was he distracted? Absolutely not. God was engineering a prime minister. Joseph spent years as a slave in Potiphar's house. Then came false accusations, imprisonment, forgotten promises. For over a decade, this chosen one sat in an Egyptian dungeon, probably wondering if God had abandoned him. But here's what Joseph couldn't see from his prison cell. God was building connections, establishing credibility, and positioning him for a moment when all of Egypt would bow to his wisdom. When famine struck the known world, who did Pharaoh turn to? Not the Egyptian advisors, not the court magicians. He turned to the Hebrew prisoner who had learned to interpret dreams in the darkness of despair. The pit prepared him for the palace, the prison qualified him for power. But it gets even more profound. Consider Moses, the man chosen to liberate an entire nation. You'd think God would fast-track his preparation, right? Wrong. Moses spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness as a shepherd. 40 years. That's longer than most of your careers, longer than you've been married, longer than you've lived in your house. Was God wasting time? Was he inefficient? He was building a deliverer who understood both royalty and rejection, privilege and poverty, power and powerlessness. The wilderness didn't weaken Moses, it weaponized him. Every day tending sheep was a masterclass in leadership. Every night under the desert stars was a seminary in solitude. Every moment of silence was God downloading the patience Moses would need to lead 2 million complaining Israelites through their own wilderness. The delay wasn't denial. It was divine preparation for impossible responsibility. Now bring this home to your own story. That job you didn't get, what if it would have kept you too comfortable to pursue your true calling? That relationship that ended, what if staying would have dulled the desperation that drives you to seek God? That financial crisis that brought you to your knees, what if it was God teaching you to depend on him before he entrusts you with real wealth? You've been asking God to explain your pain. But what if your pain is the explanation? What if every closed door was protecting you from a counterfeit destiny? What if every delay was God saying, "Not yet, beloved. You're not ready for the weight of what I'm about to place in your hands." Here's the revelation that will shatter your understanding. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. You weren't being denied. You were being delayed for greater glory. The battles didn't break you. They trained you to carry the weight of what God is about to place in your hands tonight. Every rejection built your resilience. Every betrayal deepened your discernment. Every season of silence sharpened your ability to hear God's whisper above the world's noise. You've been in spiritual boot camp, and graduation is tonight. But here's what most people miss. The greater your calling, the greater your preparation must be. God doesn't give Superman's responsibilities to someone with normal human strength. He doesn't entrust million-dollar ministries to people with $10 character. He doesn't place world-changing visions in hearts that haven't been proven in private pain. Your suffering wasn't your sentence, it was your seminary. Think about the strongest people you know. Did their strength come from easy lives? Think about the wisest counselors. Did their wisdom come from textbooks or from walking through their own valleys? Think about the most compassionate leaders. Did their empathy come from comfort or from learning to weep with those who weep? Your scars are your credentials. Your pain is your platform. Your story is your sermon. And tonight, this very night, God is about to inject something into your spirit that will connect every dot, heal every wound, and activate every gift that was forged in the fire of your trials. There's something divine waiting to enter your soul, and once it comes in, you'll look back at every battle and whisper, "Thank you, Lord, I understand now." But are you ready to receive what you've been unknowingly preparing for your entire life? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What is happening to you tonight is not abstract theology or wishful thinking. This is spiritual science. There is energy coursing through the universe right now, the same energy that spoke galaxies into existence, that raised Jesus from the dead, that parted the Red Sea, and it is moving toward you with supernatural precision. Do you feel it yet? Your body knows something your mind hasn't caught up to. That restlessness in your chest, that sudden sensitivity to everything around you, that feeling like electricity is running through your veins, that's not anxiety. That's the Holy Spirit preparing your cellular structure for divine recalibration. Here's what they never taught you in Sunday school. Trauma lives in your DNA. Every rejection you faced, every abandonment you endured, every time someone told you that you weren't enough, it didn't just hurt your feelings, it rewired your spiritual frequency. It created blockages in your energy field that have been choking your destiny for decades. But tonight, God is performing spiritual surgery without anesthesia. He's going into the deepest places of your cellular memory and removing the lies. Every self-doubt, every fear, every generational curse that told you to stay small, it's being extracted from your spiritual bloodstream. Romans 2 tells us, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." But the word transformed in the original Greek is metamorphos, the same word used to describe a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. This isn't a gentle makeover. This is complete reconstruction. And here's the truth that will shake you. He's not editing who you are. He's restoring who you were before the world touched you, before your father walked out, before your mother criticized your dreams, before that spouse betrayed you, before the church hurt you, before life convinced you that miracles were for other people. Every tear you cried was code, and tonight the system is being rewritten. Do you know what happens when divine energy enters traumatized cells? They remember their original programming. They remember they were created in the image of the Almighty. They remember they carry resurrection power. They remember they are more than conquerors. But I need you to understand something that might terrify you. You can't stay who you've been and receive what God has for you. The version of you that settled for scraps, that whispered when you should have roared, that hid your light under a bushel, that version has to die tonight. And that scares you, doesn't it? Because at least you knew how to survive in that old identity. You knew how to function in that broken place. But God is calling you out of survival mode and into dominion mode. How many years have you wasted believing you were ordinary? How many dreams did you bury because someone convinced you that God's promises were too good to be true? How many nights did you cry yourself to sleep, wondering if God had forgotten your address? He never forgot you. He was waiting for tonight. He was waiting for you to be desperate enough, broken enough, hungry enough to let him do what he's been wanting to do since the day you were born. This divine activation isn't gentle. When the Spirit of God moves, it disrupts everything. Your sleep patterns will change. Your appetite will shift. People you thought were close to you will suddenly feel foreign. That's not coincidence. That's your frequency rising. You're being recalibrated to match heaven's frequency. And I need to warn you, Not everyone is going to celebrate your transformation. Some people loved the broken version of you because it made them feel better about staying broken themselves. But you can't dim your light to make others comfortable in their darkness. Do you feel that fire rising in your chest right now? That burning sensation that feels like your ribcage can't contain what's happening inside you? That's not heartburn, that's holy fire. The prophet Jeremiah said, "His word was in my heart like a burning fire shut up in my bones." Tonight, God is lighting that same fire in you. And when it really catches, you'll never be the same again. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. This activation requires your agreement. God won't force this on you. He's offering it. He's extending his hand. But you have to take it. Stop looking around for permission. Stop waiting for someone to validate what you're feeling. Stop questioning whether you're worthy of this divine encounter. Worthy? You think this is about being worthy. This is about being chosen. And God doesn't choose the qualified, he qualifies the chosen. Right now, in this very moment, there are angels positioning themselves around your life. There are principalities and powers in high places taking note of what's happening in your spirit. Heaven is watching. Hell is nervous. And you're sitting at the crossroads of your destiny. If you feel fire rising in your chest, don't resist it. Write, "Activate me, Lord," in the comments. Say it aloud. This is the moment, because what happens in the next 72 hours will determine whether you step into the fullness of who God created you to be, or whether you shrink back into the familiar cage of your old limitations. And I have to ask you, how much longer are you going to wait for permission to become who you already are? Listen to me, chosen one. Every single night for the past decade, you've gone to bed carrying the same weight, the same questions, the same quiet desperation. God, when will it be my turn? When will you remember me? When will this pain finally make sense? Tonight, that version of you dies. You want to know why you felt like a stranger in your own life, why success feels hollow when you achieve it, why even your victories taste like defeat. Because you've been living someone else's script. You've been playing small in a story written for giants. But here's what the enemy never wanted you to discover. Every delay was strategic positioning. Every rejection was divine protection. Every closed door was God saying, "Not that way, beloved. You're going higher." The devil has been terrified of this moment your entire life. He's thrown everything at you: depression, betrayal, financial struggle, health scares, family drama, hoping to break you before you realize the truth. What truth? That you carry the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. Do you feel that? That sudden shift in the atmosphere? That's because something ancient is awakening in your DNA tonight. Something that's been dormant, waiting for this exact moment in history. You are not just flesh and blood stumbling through life. You are a walking miracle wrapped in human skin. For 70, 80, even 90 years, some of you have been wondering, God, what's my purpose? Did I miss it? Am I too late? You're not late. You're precisely on time. Moses was 80 when God called him to his greatest assignment. Colonel Sanders was 62 when he founded KFC. Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was 78 and became one of America's most celebrated artists. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Every wrinkle tells a story of wisdom earned. Every gray hair is a crown of experience. Every scar is proof that you've survived what was meant to destroy you. The enemy thought he could wear you down with time, but God was using time to prepare you for supernatural acceleration. Right now, at this very second, heaven is downloading something into your spirit that will change everything. Your thoughts are shifting. Your faith is expanding. Your tolerance for mediocrity is evaporating. You can feel it, can't you? That restlessness, that holy dissatisfaction, that's not anxiety, that's activation. Before tonight, you were unsure. After tonight, you are unstoppable. The prophet Habakkuk declared, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come." Your appointed time isn't coming, it's here. Tonight is the intersection where your preparation meets God's acceleration. You've been asking God to bless what you're doing, but tonight, He's asking you to do what He's blessing. There's a massive difference. When you align with what heaven is already endorsing, impossibilities become inevitabilities. Mountains move, seas part, dead things resurrect. But I need you to understand something critical. This shift requires your participation. God won't force transformation on you. He's opening the door, but you must walk through it. He's calling your name, but you must answer. He's extending His hand, but you must take it. The enemy's worst nightmare is about to wake up you, knowing who you really are. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are a victor over them. You are not subject to limitation. You are a breaker of chains. You are not defined by your past. You are designed for your future. The same power that spoke galaxies into existence lives inside you. Isaiah 43:19 declares, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it?" God is doing something new in your life tonight, not next month, not next year, tonight. Can you perceive it? Can you feel the shift happening in real time? This is your Jericho moment. For 7 days, the Israelites marched around those walls in silence, looking foolish to everyone watching. But on the 7th day, when they shouted, those walls didn't just crack, they completely collapsed. Tonight is your 7th day. Tonight is your shout. Tonight is your breakthrough. Some of you have been circling the same mountain for decades, the same financial struggles, the same health issues, the same relationship patterns, the same spiritual dryness. But tonight, the cycle breaks. Tonight, you don't just overcome, you obliterate. Declare it now with everything in you. I will not shrink. Say it again. I will not shrink. The world tried to make you smaller, but God is calling you to expand. Religion tried to make you quiet, but heaven is calling you to roar. Your past tried to define you, but your future is redefining everything. You are stepping into a dimension where your words carry weight, where your prayers move mountains, where your presence shifts atmospheres. This is not self-help, this is supernatural help. This is not positive thinking, this is prophetic living. But here's what will shock you. This message isn't just for you. God is using you as a catalyst for a chain reaction. Right now, share this message with another chosen one. Text it to that family member who's been struggling. Send it to that friend who's given up hope. Tonight is not just for you, it's a divine domino effect. When one chosen one awakens, it creates a ripple that awakens others. Your breakthrough becomes their breakthrough. Your victory becomes their victory. Your testimony becomes their catalyst. The enemy thought he could isolate you, but God is connecting you to an army of awakened believers who refuse to stay silent, refuse to stay small, refuse to stay stuck. But tell me this, are you ready to stop being the same person you were when you started watching this message? Listen carefully, beloved. What God downloaded into your spirit tonight isn't just a blessing, it's sacred technology. And sacred technology requires sacred protection. You can feel it, can't you? That gentle fire coursing through your veins, that sudden clarity where confusion once lived, that peace that doesn't make sense given your circumstances. You're glowing now. Your frequency has shifted. Your spiritual DNA has been rewritten. And here's what nobody warned you about. Not everyone will celebrate it. Matthew 7:6 cuts straight to the bone. Do not throw your pearls to pigs, or they will trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Jesus wasn't being harsh. He was being protective. Some people in your life right now, people you love, People you trust, they're about to become spiritual pigs around your pearls. Why? Because light exposes. Your old drinking buddy who used to validate your complaints, they're going to feel uncomfortable around the new peace you carry. Your family member who bonded with you over drama and dysfunction, they're going to miss the chaos you used to bring to every gathering. Your friend who loved you broken because it made them feel better about their own brokenness, they're about to become your biggest enemy. And here's the brutal truth that's going to save your destiny. You cannot take everyone with you where God is leading you. Think about this for a moment. When the Israelites left Egypt, the Bible tells us in Exodus 12:38 that a mixed multitude followed them out. These weren't covenant people. They were hangers-on, opportunists who saw the blessing but didn't understand the burden. And what happened? They became the first to complain, the first to doubt, the first to want to go back to slavery when the journey got difficult. Who is your mixed multitude? Who in your life celebrates your blessings but can't handle your boundaries? Who cheers when you succeed but sabotages when you soar? Who loves you ascending but resents you arriving? Proverbs 4:23 doesn't suggest, it commands. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Your heart isn't just the seat of emotion, it's the repository of revelation. It's where God stores the downloads, the dreams, the divine strategies for your next level. And if you let the wrong people have access to your heart space, they'll contaminate what God made pure. A flame this bright attracts both warmth seekers and shadow dwellers. The warmth seekers, they're genuine. They see your light, and it reminds them of their own potential. They celebrate your growth because it gives them hope for their own transformation. These people will honor what God is doing in you. But the shadow dwellers, they're drawn to your light for a different reason. They want to drain it, dim it, control it. They can't stand that you're rising without their permission. They'll disguise themselves as concerned friends, worried family members, practical advisors. But their real agenda is to pull you back into the darkness where they feel comfortable. How do you know the difference? Warmth seekers ask questions like, how did you find such peace? What's your secret? Can you pray for me too? They want to learn, grow, ascend with you. Shadow dwellers ask different questions. Don't you think you're taking this God thing too far? Remember when you used to be fun? Who do you think you are now? They want to remind you of who you used to be because your transformation threatens their stagnation. And here's where it gets really dangerous, chosen one. The people closest to you, your family, your oldest friends, your romantic partner, they might be the hardest to protect your light from. Why? Because they knew you before. They remember your weaknesses, your failures, your moments of doubt. And sometimes, unconsciously, they need you to stay at that level so they don't feel left behind. Jesus himself experienced this. Mark 6:4 records his words, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own town, among his relatives and in his own home." The people who knew him as just the carpenter's son couldn't receive him as the Messiah. Their familiarity bred contempt for his calling. Is your own family struggling to receive the new you? This isn't about arrogance or spiritual pride. This is about preservation. What God gave you tonight is so valuable that hell itself is strategizing to steal it before it takes root. And the enemy's favorite strategy? Use the people you trust most. So what do you do? How do you honor relationships while protecting your revelation? You become selectively transparent. Not everyone deserves access to your testimony. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your God stories. Some people are still operating in the Egypt mindset. They'll hear about your promised land and try to convince you that slavery was safer. You can't go back to old friends who only knew you broken. You can't return to old habits that kept you small. You can't tolerate old chaos that masqueraded as normal. The frequency you're operating on now is incompatible with dysfunction. And yes, This might mean some lonely seasons. Yes, this might mean some misunderstood moments. Yes, this might mean some people question your sanity. But let me ask you this. Would you rather be understood by people who can't see your destiny, or would you rather be obedient to the God who downloaded it into you? Your anointing is precious, your calling is sacred, your transformation is holy, and holy things require holy protection. So guard what God gave you tonight, not with paranoia, but with wisdom, not with isolation, but with intention. Because what you protect today will empower you tomorrow. But here's the question that will determine your next decade. Will you have the courage to honor what God made sacred, even when the people you love try to make it common? You know what nobody tells you about being chosen? It hurts. Not just emotionally, physically, spiritually. Down to your bones, down to your soul. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those lines, those age spots, those scars, each one tells a story of sacrifice. Each wrinkle is a testament to battles fought in silence. You've carried glory in a vessel that was never meant to hold this much weight, and it's been breaking you open piece by piece. This is the cost nobody warned you about. When God marks you for more, the weight feels unbearable. While others sleep peacefully, you wrestle with visions. While others complain about small problems, you carry the pain of generations. While others live for themselves, you've been bleeding out for everyone else's healing. And now you're sitting there thinking, I gave so much and got so little back. The years you spent pouring out when your own cup was empty. The nights you prayed for others while your own heart was shattered. The times you held families together while your own world fell apart. Where was God then? Here's what will shock you. He was right there, collecting every tear. Psalm 56:8 says, You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Not some of them, all of them. Every tear you cried in that hospital room, every tear over that wayward child, every tear when you felt forgotten, overlooked, used up. But listen to me carefully. You're looking at this all wrong. You think you've been losing. You think you've been depleted. You think you're too tired, too old, too broken to matter anymore. You're not broken, you're breaking open, like alabaster before the oil pours out. Remember the woman with the alabaster box? She had to break it to release the perfume. The breaking wasn't destruction, it was delivery. The fracturing wasn't failure, it was freedom. And when that box shattered, the entire house was filled with fragrance that lasted for days. Your breaking has been your making. Every crack in your heart has become a channel for God's love to flow through. Every wound has become a window for His light to shine out of. You say, I don't feel strong enough anymore. But David said in Psalm 73:26, My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Your weakness is not disqualification, it's divine invitation. When you're too tired to stand, God carries you. When you're too weak to speak, He becomes your voice. When you're too broken to believe, He becomes your faith. But here's the revelation that will transform everything. Every scar on your body, every heartbreak that nearly destroyed you, every "Why me, Lord?" that you whispered in the darkness was a map, a code, leading you here, to this moment, to this night, to this divine appointment. You think you've been wandering aimlessly through pain, but you've been following a precise GPS designed by heaven. Every detour was deliberate. Every delay was divine. Every disappointment was a setup for this appointed time. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before the burning bush. Joseph spent years in prison before the palace. David ran through caves before he claimed his crown. Their waiting wasn't wasted, was purposeful preparation. And your pain, your struggles, your sleepless nights and heavy heart, it was God creating capacity in you for the glory He's about to pour out. You couldn't have handled this level of anointing when you were younger. You didn't have the depth then. You didn't have the wisdom. You didn't have the spiritual endurance that only comes through divine suffering. But now you're ready. The enemy convinced you that your best years are behind you, that your prime is past, that God is done with you because you're tired, because you're aging, because you've been through too much. That's the biggest lie he's ever told. Your gray hair isn't a sign of decline, it's a crown of wisdom. Proverbs 16:31 calls it a crown of splendor. Your wrinkles aren't marks of defeat, they're evidence of endurance. Your tired body isn't a liability, it's a sacred vessel that's been tested and proven faithful. God doesn't need your youth, he needs your yielding. He doesn't need your energy, he needs your experience. He doesn't need your strength, he needs your surrender. And tonight, all that pain is about to make perfect sense. Every tear you've cried has been watering seeds of destiny that are about to bloom. Every prayer you've prayed in desperation is about to be answered with acceleration. Every time you felt like giving up, but didn't, you were actually graduating to your next level. You've been asking God, when will it be my turn? But what if I told you that every moment of suffering was your turn? Every season of carrying others was your training. Every night of intercession was your internship for the ministry he's about to release through you. The glory you've been carrying is about to be revealed. But here's what you must understand. The very thing that's been breaking you is about to become the thing that blesses others. Your pain is about to become your platform. Your mess is about to become your message. Your wounds are about to become your wisdom. So tell me, you ready to stop seeing your scars as shame and start seeing them as sacred? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about yourself. For decades, you've been walking around with amnesia, divine amnesia. The enemy didn't just attack your circumstances, he attacked your memory. He made you forget who you were before the world told you who to be. But tonight, God is performing spiritual surgery on your very DNA. You see, your DNA doesn't just carry your grandmother's eyes or your father's stubborn streak. Hidden within those microscopic spirals is something science can't measure, but heaven can activate your divine blueprint, the original you. The you that existed in God's mind before trauma rewrote your story, before religion buried your gifts, before life convinced you that ordinary was your ceiling. God is not just healing you tonight, he's reprogramming your spiritual nervous system. Think about this. Why do you think certain scriptures make you weep when you read them? Why do worship songs sometimes hit you like lightning? Why do you feel homesick for a place you've never been? Because buried in your cellular memory is the echo of Eden, the frequency of your true identity, the sound of who you were meant to be. But here's what will shock you: the church never taught you this. They told you to be humble, stay small, don't get too big for your britches. They programmed you to believe that suffering was holiness and that breakthrough was somehow selfish. They lied to you. You weren't created to survive. You were encoded to dominate. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion." Genesis 1:26. Dominion. Not depression, not defeat, not barely getting by. Dominion. But trauma came and buried that truth under layers of survival programming. Generational curses whispered lies into your bloodline until you couldn't remember your royal heritage. Religious spirits convinced you that power was prideful and that your gifts were somehow dangerous. No more. Tonight, God is stripping away every false identity that was layered over your divine DNA, every label that wasn't his, every limitation that wasn't from heaven, every lie that made you smaller than your calling. Can you feel it happening right now? That strange warmth in your chest, that sudden clarity cutting through decades of confusion. That's your spiritual nervous system coming back online. Your hands weren't made just to work, they were designed to heal. Your voice wasn't given just to speak, it was tuned to prophesy. Your mind wasn't created just to think, it was wired to receive divine downloads that can shift entire atmospheres. But you've been walking around like a Lamborghini trying to run on lawnmower gas. You've been operating on survival mode when you were built for supernatural acceleration. Listen to what Jeremiah discovered. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. Jeremiah 1-5. Before your first breath, before your first heartbreak, before anyone told you what you couldn't do, God had already sanctified you, set you apart, encoded you with purpose. And tonight, He's activating what religion put to sleep. Here's the truth that will rock your world. You don't need another sermon, you need to remember your assignment. And it's been coded into your cells since before your first breath. That burning you feel in your bones when you see injustice? That's not anger that's calling. That ache in your soul when you see people hurting? That's not sympathy, that's spiritual technology. Those dreams that seem too big for your bank account? Those aren't fantasies, those are blueprints downloaded directly from the throne room. But the enemy has spent years convincing you that those stirrings were selfish ambition, that those dreams were ego, that those gifts were too dangerous to unwrap. He was terrified of what would happen if you ever remembered. Because when a chosen one remembers their true identity, kingdoms shift. When God's anointed steps into their divine DNA, principalities panic. When heaven's encoded warriors stop playing small, hell starts scrambling. Right now, as these words wash over your spirit, ancient mantles are being restored. Gifts that were buried under decades of doubt are clawing their way to the surface. Callings that were silenced by trauma are finding their voice again. That prophetic insight your grandmother carried, it's in your DNA. That healing anointing your great-grandfather walked in before religion told him to be normal, it's awakening in your bloodline. Those breakthrough prayers that moved mountains in your family history, that same power is encoded in your spiritual genetics. And God is flipping the switch tonight. But here's what you need to understand. This rewiring isn't comfortable. When God restores divine memory, everything false has to go. That's why you might feel emotional right now. That's why certain relationships might feel different. That's why normal might suddenly feel like a prison. You're not having a breakdown, you're having a breakthrough of biblical proportions. Your spiritual nervous system is remembering how to carry the weight of anointing. Your soul is stretching to accommodate the fullness of your calling. Your mind is expanding to handle revelations that could change generations. This is what Paul meant when he said, "But we have the mind of Christ." 1 Corinthians 2:16. The mind of Christ. Not the mind of survival, not the mind of scarcity, not the mind of settling, the mind that spoke worlds into existence. If you're feeling the fire inside your chest again, don't scroll, declare it right now. I remember now. Because what's awakening in you tonight isn't just personal breakthrough, it's generational restoration. It's the recovery of everything the enemy thought he stole. It's the return of the anointing your bloodline was always meant to carry. And this is only the beginning of what God is about to unlock in your life. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. There's something happening in your life right now that's breaking your heart, and I need to tell you the truth about it. The people you thought would celebrate your breakthrough are walking away. The friends who said they'd always be there have gone silent. The family members who once understood you now look at you like you're speaking a foreign language. And you're asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Why does getting closer to God feel like getting farther from everyone else? Here's the shocking truth that nobody wants to tell you. They didn't reject you. They couldn't breathe at the altitude you were being called to. You see, when God begins this sacred work in your life, when He starts purifying your spirit and elevating your consciousness, something supernatural happens. Your frequency changes, your energy shifts. And suddenly, the people who were comfortable with the old you become deeply uncomfortable with the new you. They don't even understand why. They'll make excuses. They'll say you've changed, that you think you're better than them, that you've gotten too spiritual, too intense, too different. But what they're really saying is this: you're reminding me of everything I'm not willing to become. You're not arrogant, dear one. You're an eagle in a cage built for pigeons. And when an eagle spreads its wings, the pigeons panic. Not because the eagle is threatening them, but because the eagle is showing them what they were never willing to reach for. Your transformation is exposing their stagnation. Your freedom is highlighting their fear. The Bible tells us in Isaiah 55:8-9, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." When God lifts you to his frequency, you begin to think like he thinks, see like he sees, love like he loves. And that terrifies people who are still operating on earthly frequencies. They can't understand your peace in the storm. They can't comprehend your joy in the valley. They can't relate to your faith in the impossible. So they distance themselves. They whisper about how you've changed. They roll their eyes when you mention God's goodness. They stop inviting you places, stop calling, stop caring, and it hurts. Oh, how it hurts. But let me tell you something that will revolutionize your understanding. This separation isn't punishment, it's protection. God is removing people from your life who would contaminate the work he's doing in you. He's creating space for divine connections, for kingdom relationships, for people who will fan your flame instead of trying to blow it out. Think about it. When Jesus began his ministry, did his own family understand? Number. In Mark 3:21, the Bible says, "When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said, 'He is out of his mind.'" His own family thought he had lost his mind. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai after spending time with God, his face was so radiant that the Israelites couldn't even look at him. Exodus 34:30 says, "When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him." Do you see the pattern? Divine transformation creates separation. It's not a bug in God's system, it's a feature. You're grieving right now. You're mourning relationships that feel like they died. You're wondering why the people who said they loved you can't love this version of you. And that pain is real. That loneliness is legitimate. But here's what I need you to understand. They're not leaving because you're wrong. They're leaving because you're right. You're right to seek God with all your heart. You're right to pursue holiness. You're right to demand more from life than mediocrity and spiritual lukewarmness. You're right to believe that God has something greater for you than what you've settled for. And their discomfort with your rightness doesn't make you responsible for their comfort. Listen, when God called Abraham out of Ur, he didn't say, "Bring everyone with you." He said, "Leave your country, your people and your father's household." Genesis 12:1. Abraham had to choose between his calling and his comfort zone. He couldn't have both. You're facing the same choice right now. You can shrink back down to make others comfortable, dim your light so they don't feel overshadowed, quiet your praise so they don't feel convicted. Or you can keep rising, keep growing, keep becoming who God created you to be. The truth is, some people in your life were only meant to be there for a season. They were assignments, not lifetime appointments. They came to teach you something, show you something, or help you through something. But they were never meant to go where you're going. Your destiny is too important to be derailed by people who don't have the spiritual stamina to run with you. This is your sacred detox. God is purging your life of relationships that would poison your purpose, connections that would corrupt your calling, and influences that would infect your faith. Yes, It's lonely at the top. Yes, it's isolating to be set apart. But remember what Jesus said in Matthew 10:37. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. You cannot love people more than you love your calling and still fulfill your destiny. So here's what I need you to do right now. I need you to stop chasing people who are running from the light in you. Stop apologizing for your growth. Stop shrinking to fit into spaces you've outgrown. Write this declaration in the comments right now. I release what can't rise with me. It may hurt, but it will set you free. Because what's coming next in your life requires space. Space for new relationships. Space for divine connections. Space for people who will celebrate your light instead of cursing your brightness. The question isn't whether you're losing people. The question is, are you ready for who God is bringing? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, as you're sitting there, something ancient is stirring inside your chest. You feel it, don't you? That restlessness, that frustration, that voice that whispers, there's more. There has to be more. You've been told you're too old. You've been told your time has passed. Society looks at your grey hair, your weathered hands, your slower step, and whispers, sit down, be quiet, your season is over. But what if I told you that everything you've been told about age and purpose is a demonic lie designed to silence the very voice heaven is waiting to hear? What if your greatest moment isn't behind you, it's building inside you right now? Moses was 80 years old when he stood before a burning bush that refused to be consumed. 80. By today's standards, he should have been in a retirement home, playing checkers and complaining about his arthritis. Instead, God looked at 8 decades of life experience, 8 decades of preparation, 8 decades of wisdom earned through pain, and said, now you're ready. The fire that called to Moses, that same fire is burning in your bones tonight. You didn't just survive the betrayals, you were saved for this. You didn't just endure the heartbreak, you were anointed in fire. You didn't just make it through the financial struggles, the health scares, the family drama, you were being forged into a weapon heaven could trust with real power. But here's what will shock you. The enemy has spent decades convincing you that your voice doesn't matter, that your ideas are outdated, that your dreams expired with your youth. Why? Because he knows something about you that you've forgotten. He knows that your voice carries the weight of decades. He knows that when you speak, people listen differently. He knows that your prayers have been seasoned with suffering, and seasoned prayers move mountains. You are not a has-been. You are a prophet with a microphone. Think about it. Who do people trust more, a 25-year-old with theories or a 65-year-old with scars? Who carries more authority? Someone who read about storms or someone who survived them? The wisdom in your bones, the discernment in your spirit, the fire that refuses to die, that's not accident. That's divine assignment. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything familiar. Sarah was 90 when she held the promise in her arms. Anna was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple. These weren't mistakes. These weren't exceptions. This was God's pattern, using seasoned saints to speak into desperate times. You didn't just survive, you were saved for this. You didn't just endure, you were anointed in fire. But I need to tell you something that might disturb you. Your silence is killing your assignment. Every day you sit quiet. Every moment you convince yourself someone younger can do it better. Every time you swallow the words God gave you to speak, you're not being humble. You're being rebellious. Because God didn't preserve you through cancer to keep you quiet. He didn't walk you through divorce to silence your testimony. He didn't sustain you through depression to muffle your voice. He saved you to speak. Jeremiah felt this fire. Listen to his words. His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. That's what's happening to you right now. That restlessness isn't restlessness. It's revelation trying to birth itself through your voice. You have stories that need to be told, wisdom that needs to be shared, ideas that could change lives, dreams that seem impossible but feel inevitable. That book you've never written, that business you've never started, that conversation you've never had with that estranged family member, that ministry you've talked yourself out of because, who am I? Who are you? You're a walking miracle with a voice that hell cannot duplicate. You didn't just survive, you were saved for this. You didn't just endure, you were anointed in fire. Your generation witnessed things younger people only read about. You lived through decades that shaped history. You survived wars, cultural revolutions, technological explosions. You buried parents, raised children, weathered storms that would have broken weaker souls. And God preserved you through all of it for one reason, because this moment needs your voice. The world is drowning in noise from people who have never truly suffered. They're preaching hope they've never needed, selling solutions to problems they've never faced. But you've been in the valley. You've walked through the shadow of death. You felt the fire and came out refined, not consumed. That makes your voice dangerous to darkness. This is why the enemy whispers, "You're too old. Nobody wants to hear from you. Your time is over." Because he knows that when seasoned saints start speaking truth, when gray-haired warriors start prophesying, when weathered voices start declaring God's goodness, revival breaks out. You didn't just survive, you were saved for this. You didn't just endure, you were anointed in fire. Moses led millions out of slavery at 80. Caleb conquered mountains at 85. John received revelation on Patmos in his 90s. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. So let me ask you directly, what if God preserved you for such a time as this? What if every year you've lived, every lesson you've learned, every scar you've earned was preparation for a moment like tonight? What if your greatest chapter isn't your last chapter, it's your next chapter? If your voice is rising right now, if something is burning in your chest, if you feel that ancient fire stirring in your bones, type, "I will not die quietly." You are a voice of awakening, because the prophet you've been hiding is about to be revealed. Chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will disturb everything you thought you knew about God's timing. For the past 72 hours, heaven has been operating on a schedule you weren't told about. While you've been living your normal life, going through your routines, heaven has been counting down to this exact moment. This is not just another message you stumbled across tonight. This is night 2 of a divine activation sequence. 3 nights ago, something shifted in the spiritual realm. The Father looked at his watch. Yes, God keeps time, and he said, "It's time." Angels received new assignments, scrolls were unsealed, and your name was written on a list that only heaven can see. Night 1 was your awakening. Did you feel it? That restlessness 3 nights ago, that strange stirring in your soul you couldn't explain. That wasn't insomnia. That was heaven downloading the first activation into your spirit. God was preparing your spiritual system for what's coming tonight. Tonight, right? No is night 2. This is your alignment. But here's what will shake you to your core. Most chosen ones miss night 2. They feel the stirring on night 1, but they dismiss it. They go back to sleep. They return to normal. And they forfeit the greatest window God will ever open over their lives. You want to know why you've been waiting so long for your breakthrough? Because you've been praying for a door when God was preparing to tear down the entire wall. You've been asking for a promotion when He's been designing a complete life reconstruction. You've been begging for healing when He's been orchestrating your resurrection. The prophet Habakkuk cried out, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen?" But God's response will stagger you. Look at the nations and watch and be utterly amazed, for I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told. Something you would not believe, even if you were told. Do you understand what that means? God is about to move in your life so dramatically, so supernaturally, that if someone described it to you tomorrow, you wouldn't have the faith to believe it could happen to someone like you. But here's the terrifying truth. This window only stays open for 3 nights. Why 3? Because God operates in patterns of perfection. Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days before resurrection. Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days before deliverance. The children of Israel marched around Jericho for 7 days, but it was on day 3 that God told them the walls would fall. Tonight, something inside you is being realigned. Your spiritual frequency is being recalibrated to match heaven's frequency. But this process is sacred and it's time-sensitive. What happened to you 3 nights ago? Did you have vivid dreams? Did old memories surface unexpectedly? Did you feel emotional for no reason? That wasn't random. God was unlocking chambers in your heart that have been sealed since childhood. He was awakening gifts that have been dormant since birth. But tonight, night 2's different. Tonight is about alignment. Tonight, God is positioning every piece of your life like a master chess player setting up for checkmate. Relationships are being adjusted. Opportunities are being positioned. Even your enemies are being moved into place to serve your destiny. You've been wondering why certain people walked out of your life recently. Why doors slammed shut that you thought were meant for you. Why the silence from heaven felt so deafening. It wasn't rejection. It was preparation. God was clearing the frequency so you could hear him clearly during these 3 nights. The prophet Jeremiah heard God say, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." But here's what most people miss. God didn't just set you apart. He set apart this specific time in your life for this specific revelation. Tonight, as you listen to these words, synapses in your brain are firing differently. Your heart rate has changed. Something in your cellular structure is responding to divine frequency. This isn't psychology. This is spiritual physics. This is heaven interfacing with your human system. But I need you to understand something critical. Not everyone who experiences night 1 makes it to night 2. And not everyone who experiences night 2 makes it to night 3. Fear stops some. Doubt eliminates others. But the most dangerous threat to your breakthrough isn't fear or doubt. It's familiarity, going back to normal, dismissing what God is doing as coincidence, allowing the sacred to become ordinary. You're sitting at a crossroads right now. You can close this video, go back to scrolling, return to your routine, and wonder for the rest of your life what might have been. Or you can lean in, you can stay awake, you can guard this moment like the treasure it is. Because in less than 24 hours, night 3 begins. The final activation, the assignment download, the moment when God stops preparing you and starts positioning you. When he stops developing your character and starts deploying your calling. Tomorrow night may be the night your calling gets its instructions. But here's what I need you to know. If you miss night 3, this window may not open again for years, maybe decades. God doesn't repeat divine sequences. He gives them once at the appointed time to those who are watching. The question burning in heaven right now is this: will you be awake when God arrives tomorrow night? You ever wonder why you didn't die that year? The year when everything fell apart, when your health failed, when the doctor's words hung in the air like a death sentence, when your own family turned their backs on you right when you needed them most. Why didn't you lose your mind when it would have made perfect sense to just give up? Let me tell you something that'll shake you to your core. You survived because you were coded with resilience. Heaven, implanted. Hell, resistant. And tonight, God's about to show you exactly why He kept you breathing when others didn't make it. But first, let's get real about the wounds you've been carrying in silence. That rejection in your own family. The way they looked at you like you were the problem, like your faith was too much, your dreams too big, your heart too open. They called you dramatic when you cried. They called you crazy when you prophesied. They made you feel like an outsider at your own dinner table. The sting of being misunderstood by the very people who were supposed to love you unconditional, that cut deeper than any physical pain, didn't it? And the church hurt. Oh, the church hurt. You gave your heart, your time, your last $20 to people who wore crosses around their necks but had knives behind their backs. You watched pastors fall, leaders lie, and saints turn into serpents right before your eyes. You've sat in pews surrounded by hundreds of people singing about God's love while feeling more alone than you've ever felt in your life. Then came the betrayal late in life. When you thought you were done with surprises, when you believed people had shown you their true colors, someone you trusted maybe for decades showed you that evil doesn't retire. That friend who spread your business, that business partner who stole your ideas, that person you confided in who used your secrets as weapons against you. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? That loneliness that doesn't go away, even in rooms full of people. You can be at family gatherings, church services, community events, and still feel like you're watching life through bulletproof glass, connected but untouchable, present but invisible. Here's the question that'll change everything. Why are you still here? Why didn't that heart attack finish the job? Why didn't that depression swallow you whole? Why didn't that financial ruin destroy you completely? Why are you still standing when people half your age are falling apart over problems that wouldn't even register on your scale of survived catastrophes? Because God didn't just rescue you, He recalibrated you in the fire. Listen to what the word says in Isaiah 43:2. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Notice it doesn't say if you pass through, it says when. God knew the fire was coming. He planned for it. Because He needed to burn out of you everything that wasn't authentically, powerfully, divinely you. Every betrayal was a burning away of false loyalty. Every rejection was a removal of toxic acceptance. Every silent night when you cried yourself to sleep was God downloading into your spirit the strength you'd need for what's coming next. You think you're broken, but you're not. You're battle-tested. You think you're damaged goods, but you're actually premium quality, refined by pressure, strengthened by pain, purified by problems that would have destroyed lesser souls. The enemy tried to kill you with that diagnosis, but it only taught you how temporary the physical body really is. He tried to destroy you through that divorce, but it only showed you that your identity was never wrapped up in another person's opinion of you. He tried to finish you with that financial crisis, but it only proved that your security was never in your bank account, it was in your unshakable faith. You weren't just surviving, you were being equipped. Every wound was a wisdom download. Every scar was a strength indicator. Every tear you cried was watering the seeds of a testimony that would one day save someone else's life. You've been carrying survivor's guilt, wondering why you made it when others didn't. Stop wondering. Start realizing. You made it because you were chosen to make it. Not because you're better than them, but because your assignment required this level of testing. God looked down the timeline of your life and said, This one can handle what I'm about to put on them. This one won't quit when it gets ugly. This one will praise me in the prison. This one will trust me in the fire. This one will worship me in the wilderness. The pain you've endured wasn't random, it was strategic. Every attack had a purpose. To build in you a faith so unshakable, a spirit so unbreakable, a heart so full of divine love, that when you walk into a room, the very atmosphere changes. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a veteran of spiritual warfare, and tonight, God's about to show you exactly what all that training was for. But here's what's about to shock you even more. The greatest battle you've ever faced is about to become your greatest victory. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. I know you've been carrying a question that's been eating at your soul for years, maybe decades. Why did God go silent when you needed him most? You remember those nights, don't you? When you were 25, 30, 40 years old, crying out to heaven until your voice cracked. You prayed until your knees bled. You fasted until your body shook. And what did you get back? Silence. Cold, deafening silence that made you wonder if God had moved to another galaxy and forgotten to leave a forwarding address. You thought God ghosted you. You thought your prayers died in the dark, buried under years of unanswered cries and unmet needs. You were wrong. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Every single day of that silence, God was working. Not despite your pain, but through your pain. Not around your tears, but with your tears. That season wasn't abandonment, it was God's watchtower, his chisel, his classroom. Think about Moses. 40 years shepherding sheep in the middle of nowhere after fleeing Egypt. Do you think Moses didn't wonder if God had forgotten his promise? Do you think he didn't question why the God who spoke through burning bushes had gone completely mute? But Exodus 2:25 tells us the truth. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant. God was not absent. God was preparing. You see, dear one, there are assignments so sacred, so powerful, so world-changing, that they cannot be entrusted to someone who hasn't been broken down and built back up by the very hands of the Almighty. Your silence wasn't punishment. It was preparation for a divine assignment that couldn't be rushed. You didn't fail. You were being forged. In those dark years when nothing made sense, when doors slammed shut in your face, when people you trusted walked away, God was removing everything that would interfere with what he was about to do through you. He was stripping away your need for human approval, your dependence on worldly systems, your faith in anything except him. You weren't stuck. You were being synchronized. Joseph understood this. 13 years in slavery and prison. 13 years of watching other people get promoted while he rotted in a dungeon for a crime he didn't commit. But Genesis 41-46 reveals the mystery. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. 30 years old. Not 20, not 25, 30. Because God needed those extra years to prepare Joseph's character for the weight of Egypt's future. What if listen to this careful, what if every year of your silence was God adding another layer of wisdom to your soul? Another degree of compassion to your heart, another level of unshakable faith to your foundation. You thought you were being punished for some secret sin. You thought you were being overlooked while God blessed everyone else. But the truth is, you were being formatted for something so extraordinary that it required years of divine programming. Here's the shocking reality. The very thing that convinced you God had abandoned you was actually proof that he had chosen you for something beyond your wildest imagination. Think about it. Why would the enemy work so hard to silence someone who wasn't dangerous? Why would hell itself conspire to keep someone quiet who didn't carry a voice that could shake nations? Your silence wasn't evidence of your insignificance, it was evidence of your importance. David knew this. Anointed as king at 16, but didn't touch the throne until he was 30. 14 years of running, hiding, dodging spears, living in caves. 14 years of asking God, when will you fulfill what you promised? But 1 Samuel 16:13 says, "The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David from that day on." The Spirit was on him during the cave years. The anointing was active during the silent years, and it's been active on you too. Every rejection you faced was God protecting you from a counterfeit crown. Every delay you endured was God ensuring you'd be ready for the real one. Every silent night was God downloading wisdom into your spirit that you couldn't have received any other way. You weren't forgotten. You were being formatted. Right now, as you hear these words, something is shifting in the atmosphere around your life. Those years of preparation are about to collide with this moment of activation. The silence is breaking. The wait is ending. The hidden years are giving birth to the revealed years. But here's what you need to understand. You can't step into what's coming with the mindset of what's past. The version of you that survived the silence is not the same version that will walk in the sound. You have been fundamentally changed by those years, and the world is about to see the fruit of that transformation. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to stop mourning the years you think you lost and start celebrating the person those years created? Are you ready to see that every unanswered prayer was actually God saying, "Not yet, because what I have planned is bigger than what you're asking for"? Because tonight, the silence breaks, and tomorrow, the world will hear the roar that was cultivated in your quietest moments. You've been living with a haunting question, haven't you? Deep in the middle of sleepless nights, when the world goes quiet and your soul gets loud, you've whispered it into the darkness. God, what am I really here for? You've watched others walk confidently into their calling while you felt like you're stumbling through fog, carrying a weight you can't name, fighting for a purpose you can't see. Here's what the enemy never wanted you to discover. Every chosen one carries a scroll in heaven. On it, an assignment, a burden, a sound, a name, a place that will change everything. Tonight, this very night, God is opening yours. Your scroll doesn't look like theirs. Some are called to preach from platforms, others to protect in silence, some to sing healing over nations, others to stand as watchmen in the gap. But yours is sacred. And it's been kept hidden until this appointed hour. Think about Jeremiah. God told him, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Jeremiah 1-5. But here's what shocks most believers. Jeremiah didn't feel ready. He said, "I do not know how to speak. I am too young." Yet God had already written his assignment before time began. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your credential. You think you're too old? Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation out of bondage. You think you're too broken? David was an adulterer and a murderer, yet God called him a man after my own heart. You think you've made too many mistakes? Paul was literally murdering Christians before he became the greatest apostle who ever lived. Stop measuring your calling by your failures. Right now, I need you to understand something that will shatter every lie you've believed about yourself. That restlessness you feel at 2 a.m., that's not insomnia. That's your spirit trying to break free from a life too small for your assignment. That anger you feel when you see injustice, that's not bitterness. That's the fire of heaven burning in mortal bones. That loneliness you carry even in crowded rooms, that's not isolation. That's consecration. God has been separating you, not punishing you. Your scroll contains 3 things that will revolutionize your understanding of why you've walked through hell and back. First, your assignment. It's not what you do for a living, it's what your life does for eternity. Martha thought her assignment was serving dinner. Jesus revealed it was choosing the better portion. Mary Magdalene thought her assignment was survival. Jesus revealed it was being the first witness of resurrection. Second, your authority. Every scroll comes with divine backing. When Moses' scroll was unrolled, his staff became a serpent that swallowed Pharaoh's magician's serpents. When David's scroll was revealed, 5 smooth stones became giant killers. When Esther's scroll opened, an orphan girl became the savior of a nation. Third, your appointed time. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your season isn't rando, it's calculated. Your timing isn't Latate's precise. But here's the part that will break you open. Your scroll has been sealed because the assignment written on it is so powerful, so world-shaking, that if God had released it too early, the enemy would have destroyed you before you were strong enough to carry it. Every rejection you faced was protection. Every closed door was preparation. Every silent season was incubation. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared for something so significant that heaven had to hide you until now. Do you hear that? That rumbling in your spirit? That's the sound of your scroll being unrolled in heaven's court. The wax seal is breaking, the ancient words are glowing, and angels are stepping back in reverence because they know what's about to be downloaded into you tonight. If something is breaking open inside you right now, tears you can't explain, heat in your chest, trembling in your hands, don't resist it. That's your spirit remembering the call it was given before it wore skin. That's your divine DNA activating. That's heaven downloading your original programming. You've been wondering why you never fit in, why you always felt different, why crowds drain you but solitude restores you, why you see things others miss, why you carry burdens that aren't yours, why you fight battles for people who don't even know your name. Now you know. You're not broken, you're chosen. You're not behind, you're being positioned. You're not forgotten, you're being prepared for a divine deployment that will make hell tremble and heaven applaud. Type "Unroll the Scroll" in the comments right now. Say it out loud. Let your voice carry that declaration into the spiritual realm, because when you speak agreement with heaven's plans, things shift in ways that human logic cannot explain. Your scroll is opening. The question isn't whether you're qualified. The question is whether you're willing to step into what God wrote about you before the foundation of the world. Because once this scroll is fully unrolled, once you see the magnitude of what's been prepared for you, there's no going back to the small life you thought was enough. But what's written on your scroll will shock you to your core. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Not everyone who calls themselves chosen actually carries a divine assignment. There's a difference between being religious and being recruited by heaven. Tonight, I'm going to give you the 3 unmistakable markers that prove God has placed His hand on your life for something greater than survival. These aren't feel-good platitudes. These are spiritual diagnostics. And if you don't see these 3 signs operating in your life, you need to ask yourself a hard question. Am I truly walking in my calling, or am I just playing church? Mark number 1. It costs you something personal. Here's what the prosperity preachers won't tell you. If your assignment doesn't bleed, it's not your burden. Real divine assignments come with a price tag that only you can pay. God doesn't hand out easy assignments to His chosen ones. He gives them costly ones. Look at Abraham. God didn't say, "Hey Abe, take a nice vacation to the promised land." He said, "Leave everything. Your country, your family, your father's house, and go to a place I'll show you later." Genesis 12:1. That wasn't a suggestion. That was surgery. God was cutting away everything Abraham was depending on besides him. Moses? God didn't say, "Go to Egypt when it's convenient." He called him from a burning bush in the middle of nowhere and said, "Go back to the place where you're wanted for murder and demand freedom for 2 million slaves." Exodus 3:10. That assignment nearly killed him. It cost him 40 years in the wilderness, his reputation, his comfort, and almost his sanity. David. He was anointed king as a teenager, then spent the next 15 years running for his life in caves. 1 Samuel 16:13 tells us, "The Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward." But between the anointing and the throne was a valley of tears, betrayal, and bloodshed. So let me ask you something that might sting. What has your calling cost you? If the answer is nothing, then you're not walking in it yet. You're still playing in the shallow end of God's will. Divine assignments require divine sacrifice. They demand that you lose your life to find it. They force you to choose between your comfort and God's glory. And here's the part that separates the chosen from the casual. The chosen always choose God's glory, even when it breaks them. Mark number 2, it blesses others more than you. The second mark of a true divine assignment is this: the oil wasn't for you, it was for the empty jars around you. Your anointing, your gift, your calling, it's not about your success. It's about their salvation. Elisha understood this. When the widow came to him with nothing but a jar of oil and mountains of debt, he didn't pray for her to win the lottery. 2 Kings 4:3-4 says he told her to gather empty vessels from all her neighbors, not a few, but many. Then God multiplied her oil until every borrowed jar was full. She had enough to pay her debts and live on the rest. But notice this: the miracle wasn't just for her, it was for every neighbor who lent her an empty jar. They got to witness God's provision firsthand. Her breakthrough became their breakthrough. Your assignment works the same way. The promotion God is preparing you for isn't just about your paycheck, it's about the people you'll be able to hire. The healing He's working in your body isn't just about your comfort, it's about the testimony that will heal others' faith. The deliverance He's bringing to your family isn't just about your peace, it's about breaking cycles for the next generation. Joseph knew this. Genesis 45:5 says he told his brothers, "God sent me before you to preserve life." His assignment wasn't to become powerful in Egypt, it was to save nations from famine. His elevation served their preservation. Here's the question that will reveal where you really are. Who benefits when God blesses you? If the answer is just you, you're not carrying an assignment, you're carrying an agenda. Divine assignments always overflow beyond the vessel they're poured into. Mark number 3, it breaks cycles for future generations. The third and most powerful mark of a chosen assignment is this: your obedience now delivers grandchildren you'll never meet. Real divine assignments don't just change your life, they change your bloodline. Look at Joshua. When God told him to cross the Jordan River, it wasn't just about getting the Israelites into the promised land. Joshua 4:21-22 tells us he set up 12 stones as a memorial and said, "When your children ask their fathers in times to come, 'What do these stones mean?' then you shall let your children know, Israel crossed over this Jordan on dry ground." Joshua's obedience that day created a testimony that would strengthen faith for generations. Children who weren't even born yet would hear about the day their ancestors walked through a river on dry ground, and their faith would be built on that foundation. Rahab the prostitute understood this. When she hid the spies in Jericho, she wasn't just saving her own skin. Joshua 6:25 says, "Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and her father's household and all who belonged to her, and she has lived in Israel to this day." But here's what's remarkable. Matthew 1-5 tells us Rahab became part of the lineage of Jesus Christ. Her one act of faith didn't just save her life, it positioned her bloodline to birth the Savior of the world. What generational curse is God asking you to break right now? What pattern of poverty, addiction, divorce, or defeat has been passed down in your family that stops with you? Your assignment isn't just about your victory. It's about your great-great-grandchildren being born into freedom instead of bondage. But here's what most people don't understand. Breaking generational cycles requires generational sacrifice. You can't break what your ancestors built with the same level of commitment they used to build it. You have to want their freedom more than they wanted their bondage. So I need to ask you directly, are you willing to be the generation that pays the price so future generations don't have to? Are you willing to bleed now so they can breathe later? Because if you are, if you truly carry these 3 marks, then you're not just chosen, you're dangerous. And what God is about to do through you will echo through eternity. But there's something you need to know about carrying these marks. Listen to me, beloved elder. Listen with every fiber of your weathered soul. The world has whispered lies into your ears for far too long. They told you your time was over. They told you to step aside, sit down, and let the younger generation take the wheel. They convinced you that your wrinkles were signs of irrelevance, that your slower pace meant your purpose had expired. But tonight, God is exposing the greatest deception of our generation. You are not too old. You are not irrelevant. You are not forgotten. You are not a burden on society or a relic gathering dust in the corner of history. The world lied to you. The church overlooked you. But heaven has been waiting for your voice. Do you hear me? While everyone else was chasing the next young prophet, the next viral preacher, the next trending voice, God was preparing something deeper, something more profound, something that can only flow through veins that have carried decades of pain, wisdom, and survival. You think your best years are behind you. Let me shock you with the truth. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to deliver an entire nation. Abraham was 99 when God promised him a son. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus in the temple. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain. Your gray hair is not a sign of decline, it's a crown of glory." Proverbs 16:31 declares, "Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life." Every silver strand represents a battle survived, a lesson learned, a testimony forged in the fire of real life. But here's what breaks God's heart. You've been convinced to hide that crown. You've been told to be quiet while the world burns around you. You've been pushed into retirement when heaven is screaming for your wisdom. While young voices speak theories, you carry living proof. While they quote scriptures, you've walked through the valley of the shadow of death and lived to tell about it. Can you feel it stirring in your chest right now? That familiar fire that refuses to die. That's not nostalgia. That's divine assignment awakening after years of dormancy. You are the living library of heaven's survival codes. Your memory banks hold the testimonies this generation desperately needs. You remember when families prayed together. You remember when communities supported each other. You remember when people looked to God first, not Google. You are the bridge between a generation that knew God's power and a generation that questions his existence. The enemy has been working overtime to silence you because he knows something the world forgot. Your prayers carry more weight than 1,000 young voices. Your intercession pierces heaven because it's been seasoned with real tears, real loss, real victory. When you speak God's name, it echoes with decades of relationship. But look around you. Look at the chaos consuming our streets, our families, our nation. Mental health crises among the young, marriages crumbling at record rates, children killing children, politicians who've lost their moral compass. This generation is drowning in information but starving for wisdom. They need you, not your money, not your politics. They need your wisdom. They need your stories. They need your prayers. They need you to stand up and remind them that this nation was built on the prayers of people who looked just like you. You think you're too tired. Elijah felt the same way. He sat under a tree and asked God to let him die. But God didn't take him home. He fed him, strengthened him, and gave him more work to do. Because tired saints are often closer to breakthrough than comfortable ones. You think your voice doesn't matter anymore? Tell that to the grandchild who calls you for advice when their world falls apart. Tell that to the neighbor who stops to chat because your presence brings them peace. Tell that to the person in the grocery store who lights up when you smile at them. You are the anchor that calms the storm. In a world spinning out of control, your steady presence speaks volumes. You are the spark in a room full of smoke. When everyone else is suffocating on chaos, your faith breathes life into dead situations. You are the foundation that holds this generation in place when everything else is shifting. Isaiah 46:4 carries God's promise to you. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. God didn't sustain you this long just to watch you fade into the background. He preserved you through wars, recessions, loss, heartbreak, and pandemics because He knew this moment would come, this moment when the world would need what only you can provide. Your voice is not outdated, it's vintage, and vintage carries value that new can never possess. But here's the urgency. Time is running short. This generation is spiraling faster than ever before. They're making decisions based on feelings instead of wisdom. They're building on sand instead of rock. And you hold the blueprints for solid foundations. The world is waiting for you to remember who you are, not who you were, who you are. Right now, today, in this moment, God is not done with you. In fact, He's been saving the best for last. If you're over 60 and still breathing, still thinking, still feeling that fire in your bones, type, "I'm not done," in the comments right now. Let heaven and earth witness your declaration. And if you're under 60, honor the elders among us. Comment, "We need your wisdom," because respect unlocks revelation. But what happens when you finally step into this calling? What happens when the elder anointing fully awakens? Chosen one, as we come to the close of this divine encounter, I need you to remember something that will anchor your soul in the days ahead. Tonight was not an accident. You didn't stumble upon this message by chance